I'm opening the training. Okay. Okay, good evening, District 109 leaders and distinguished guests. Welcome to our TLIx Empowering Club Officers for Success. As you know, great clubs don't happen by accident. They are built by passionate leaders like you who dare to step up. Every single one of us, I am the president of my club, by the way, in this room, holds the key to transforming our club's culture, inspiring members, and creating a safe for growth. Tonight, Alex with us. Alex knows feedback from both ends. He was last year's division champion in speech evaluation. I know him very well and he is good at this job. He sits on board of two clubs, Istanbul Toastmasters and also Istanbul Asia Toastmasters. Here is what nobody warns you about when you take a role. You have just become one of the people your club turns to for feedback. Whether you sign up for it or not, and the most of what we give is some version of great job tonight. Lovely and forgotten by the next week. Alex has spent a good while doing something about that. Out of all, those are evaluating, mentoring, and getting a fair few things wrong. He has pulled together a handful of simple ideas about what makes feedback actually land. Things you can start applying immediately. Alexander Kiriakov. Stage is yours, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Serkan. Thank you for introducing me. Thank you, Denise, for giving this opportunity to share what I've learned in terms of providing feedback. I'm going to share my presentation and we'll go from there. So let me quickly run it. There we go. So I've been a Toastmaster for 2 years, and at the same time, I'm not going to pretend like I've given more feedback than anyone on the Zoom call, but I have been paying close attention to the moments where it was obvious that it did change some things for me and for people I would give it to. And I've identified some patterns, and I'm going to share them with you. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to provide very simple concepts, specifically 3 words and 3 tools, 3 concepts that you can apply at your next meeting and see whether these tools will help you provide better feedback, feedback that helps. By helping, what I mean is that people, when they receive this feedback, they improve as speakers, and also they get motivated and inspired to proceed with their public speaking journey, whether it's enhancing their personal or professional goals or perhaps participating in competitions and basically realizing themselves as public speakers in whatever domain they choose. And the idea that I want to convey here is that not only are you providing feedback, you're also creating a culture within your club. And it is the culture that makes the feedback possible. It makes possible for the system that you develop of providing feedback to spread across members. And you as club officers are the originators of that culture. So let's see. Yeah. So as Serkan said, I won the award for the division evaluation last year, but I'm aware that it's the award for evaluating one's speech. While providing feedback is the opportunity that you get at every single meeting and in between meetings. And I'm a board member in 2 clubs. One is Istanbul Asia Toastmasters. I'm a vice president of education there. And I'm also a board member of Istanbul Toastmasters, where I have a bit of a creative improvised role called head of competition. The idea there is to develop a system to help people win competitions, practice systems, and then also inspiring people to participate and effectively getting them to win. And I'm going to be upfront with you that this talk of mine is not books. I didn't read anything to prepare for this, and I didn't consult with AI, although AI did help me structure these ideas. These ideas are going to sound simple, and perhaps that's because they are. But in my opinion, it's good that they're so simple because as long as you apply these ideas, you will see how on the other end of receiving feedback, they will feel like this feedback is something that really moves them. And this feedback applies inside Toastmasters and beyond in whatever situation you have to provide it. So I'm going to share where this model originated from me. For me, it started for me with something that we tried back in perhaps winter or spring this year in Istanbul Toastmasters, where we developed a simple mentorship system where at a board meeting we would decide that for each club officer we would get assigned a list of mentees, as we call them. So we are mentors and they're mentees. By they I mean the club members. And the idea was to help them progress through their pathway, because we found that a lot of people were quite confused, or they just haven't developed a habit of consulting with the pathway and marking those check boxes whenever they would complete a project or performed an counter role, whatever it was. We realized that the sooner there was this assignment and the sooner you understand who your mentee is, the better. Maybe you know this experience. I still fall victim to it. When, for example, you have to deliver your speech and you're the third or the fourth person that night, and somebody who spoke before you asks you for feedback, you were busy at that time rehearsing your speech still. It's difficult sometimes to distract from it and really pay attention to them speaking. But if you know that, okay, this is my mentee, I'm going to be ready to provide feedback when needed. So the first thing was that we got assigned our mentees. Then we decided to, okay, let's guide them through the pathway. But also, as we're doing that, naturally, in those conversations, whether they were online or offline, we would get opportunities to provide feedback with how they were doing with their speeches. And so effectively, no matter what the role was, sergeant at arms, I was sergeant at arms back then, or treasurer, whatever, every officer became a feedback giver. And to me personally, it was great because it allowed to share the knowledge and see people progress. And it's a special feeling when you see that someone who's reserved, shy, and a little bit maybe you see their potential and you see that there is more to what they can do, and then you see them progress and you see that your feedback has helped. That's great. So this is training for club officers, and I want to produce this argument that you as club officers are the culture creators. You create the culture in your club. You really are a role model. It starts with the president, certainly, but then it extends to every club officer, because members watch what you do and they watch what you project to them. And whatever you develop within your board, you're going to project to the club members, and you're going to see your club grow in a certain direction. And these things that I'm going to talk about are best practiced, in my opinion, within the board. I'm going to talk a lot about truth later and honesty. And I would argue that the more honest you can be with each other as board members, the more of that honesty you can project and translate to the entire club. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share some ideas in terms of how to provide feedback that helps, and also how to build the trust. Because my argument is that trust is one of the key factors of successful feedback. I mentioned that I was going to give three tools, and they're very easy, and here they are. Tool number one is precision. The idea behind it is that whenever you give feedback, the more specific you are, the better. The second one, trust. It means that you first earn it, and then you spend it. And as you're spending it while providing feedback, that's what enables the feedback to really be impactful. And the final one, for me, it's probably the most challenging, as I'm going to share later, it's the calibration. It's when you provide the feedback at the right time, at the right size, and with the right purpose. Because sometimes our emotions can get in the way, and our own feelings can get in the way, and I'll talk about them later. About precision. In my experience, the more specific the positive feedback is, let's talk about positive. The more specific it is, the more it enables the direction of that person towards really realizing their potential as a speaker. But the more vague it is, the more it just becomes flattery slash compliment. And I'm going to show you an example, and I'm going to argue that flattery and compliments don't really work. So let's say you have heard an icebreaker speech, and you see that there were some components of their speech were genuinely good, and you know it's an icebreaker, it's the first speech, but they really have some talent in some aspects of their speech. Maybe it's their energy, maybe that's how they use their voice, comes very natural to them. And so if they ask you about feedback and you say something like, speech was great, I hear that very often in clubs. Great speech, amazing speech, nice speech. Those three phrases or phrases like that. And then you say you're a natural. The cool thing about it is that it feels good. That's the upside. The downside is that it does nothing long term. In a couple of days, in a couple of weeks, by that time, it will vanish. It won't stick. Compared to what you can see on screen on the right, when you don't just say that something was great, you say that the opening question made the whole room lean in. It was like a hook. And then you had this pause. Let the speech breathe a little bit. Do that. Keep doing that. And then there are two things in the middle you said, and the third one, perhaps you might cut it out entirely. It feels so much better because not only does it serve the same purpose of really giving praise, you're guiding the person towards improvement, towards growth. It's highly practical. Even yesterday, I'll go on a very quick tangent. Yesterday, as I was thinking about this presentation of mine, I remembered this situation, maybe you know it then, when some of your friends shares a track on Spotify, and that's it. And how often do you actually listen to it? Just because the person likes it. As opposed to when the person is very specific, if they are like that, and they tell you why exactly you personally should listen to this track. I have some people in my life who do that, and I always listen to the track that way, if they provide some rationale for why I should listen to it. It's kind of similar in the sense that the more specific this thing is, the more it compels you to do something about it, about what's being given or what's being said. Why is it like that? Why is specificity moving, in my opinion? Well, one thing is that you cannot quite fake specifics. If you're so specific that you talk about the hook and specifically maybe the question in the hook, the pause that was afterwards, you communicate to the person without saying it that you're being honest. So you already start to build trust, which will help you later. And secondly, it also automatically, without you saying, proves that you actually were listening. For people who are asking for feedback, that's one of the things they actually want to hear in what you say. They want to hear that you've listened, that you've paid attention. If you've paid attention and then you say something about it, they will really absorb it. But they need to trust that you've listened. And if you're so specific that you can actually, if you did listen, you can produce something specific, and vice versa. If you're specific, it means that you listened. That's a gift. So, for example, what could be a precise feedback about vocal energy? Let's say that the person is very energetic at the icebreaker. And you can say something like the emotional tone really followed your speech. You were bubbly when you had to, you were quieter when your speech got sad, and then you went back to happy again. And I know it's your icebreaker, so it was an instinct. Felt like you did it instinctually. Great job. That is a very specific thing. And then if you also supply it with some suggestion as to what to do next, the person might actually do it next. So I want to play a little game with you guys. Those of you who have been listening, feel free to raise your hand or say something. So here's the game. Let's interact a little bit. Let's imagine that you kind of hear somebody give these lines. And I want you to effectively use your fantasy and suggest what this could have meant. So instead of saying great energy tonight, imagine that someone gave this compliment to somebody for the sake of the argument, let's say it's an icebreaker. So the person is completely new. So it's all natural. What could that mean? So if anybody wants to raise their hand and unmute themselves and just give some ideas in terms of what could have been here that's more specific than great energy tonight.
So I can go. So
All right.
usually when you say great energy tonight, it can be translated and it should be reworded as your vocals were you were radiating energy through your vocals, your hand gestures, your sound, it was radiating energy. So they know exactly what they were doing, right? What was energetic, sound, physical movement, etc.
Mm, mm. And how does that make us feel as listeners? What's the impact? What would you say, how you felt from that energy? Oh, I guess you're done, Dalha. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Alexa. I thought you were asking the general room. So how that made us feel? Yes. So if everyone was feeling energetic, if that synergized with us, then I would say that's a complete great energy.
Awesome. Thank you. Benedict, do you want to add something?
Um, yeah, you kept people's attention. They were all focused on you, not looking around in the room. That's kind of like the energy. People are really eager to hear more.
Yeah.
That's what I would take from it. So speak to the attention that the speaker managed to hold.
Yeah, I totally agree. We all were really engaged, from that energy. Yeah. Ipek.
Apart from all comments, I would think of actually two cases. One case would be this person may indicate such performance that she or he is so involved to his or her topic, so energetic, so invested in the topics that that person covers. That would be one thing. So because we see the energy itself, this person. The other would be about uplifting people. And uplifting, what I mean, uplifting, maybe as one of the audience, I didn't have any clue about the topic that person mentioned, or I don't have any interest. But somehow, one way or another, uh, I became enthusiastic after I learned about this topic from this person.
hmm
So
Yeah,
it
so it's
indicates it indicates two scenarios. So as you mentioned, it will be great to be more specific.
right. Yeah. So it can communicate, for example, it could be something like about the conviction of the person and what they're saying, and also about how much we believe that person now, right? After them conveying it through that energy. Yes, amazing. Great. Thank you so much. This is also something that I hear quite often. And it really deserves more specificity, I think, because it helps really direct the person's efforts so that they know what to do next. So let's say that someone didn't use the stage enough. How can you be more specific when you say it? So what exactly did they uh, not do enough? What they could do more? And how would that make you feel? Or you can say something like how them not using the stage enough makes you feel. That is also okay. Does anybody wanna? Denise, yes.
We could say, for example, you were talking about your three phases of your life, and if you would use the right side of the stage when you're telling the first one, and then move to the middle for the second one, and then move to the left for the third part, it will visualize your three parts in front of the eyes of the people while using the stage better. Say something like that.
Yes, wonderful. So attaching the movement to different sections of the speech. Yes, highly useful. Very practical. Bit of feedback right there. Totally agree. Uh, awesome. Well, how about this one? There are more parts to the talk, so I'm trying to calibrate the speed. Your opening was weak, and that happens. Surely it does. What what does that mean? The opening was weak. What could have been weak? What could be changed so that it's not weak anymore? Anybody? Benedict.
Your opening did not immediately lead us into your topic, distracting us and making us wonder what it was about instead of keeping us on what you wanted to talk about. So pick an opening line that leads stronger to your main point of your story.
Absolutely. Yes. So that they know what to do next time, perhaps being more on point right from the get-go.
Oops.
Yeah. Talha, how about you?
Yes. So rather than your opening was weak, we should tell them there are three major hooks that can be used, like either a question, either a fact, like there are 15% in this whole world, it goes to garbage, something like that. Or there is some other hook, that can increase ask that can encourage listeners to think about something. So rather than this, if we give them a three specific or two specific openings, that will be much more meaningful.
Yes, thank you very much. They will take notes after that one and hopefully apply it next time. Yeah. Serkan. Ah, you're just doing the thing.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't
But
see
they
the I could,
but they can
yeah.
when evaluate you like that, maybe they can say, yeah, you can use a hook question to catch the audience with it. I mean, maybe we can say that not your opening was weak, by the way.
Right. 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 And weak is a judgment, right? A little bit of a judgment there. What if there could be a bit of a more of a neutral feedback, right? If you talk about what about you use this kind of a hook, it has no judgment there. It's just very constructive right away. Awesome. Uh, now let's go harsh. You seemed unprepared. Even more judgy. But how does that show up? Maybe a good idea would be how do you say this to the person without actually saying you seemed unprepared? Chloe.
You could maybe say, you were very reliant on your notes, and you seemed quite nervous in front of the audience. So maybe that would be, probably the notes, I would say, would be the most unprepared thing. If somebody's just reading from the notes, I would think that they maybe didn't practice beforehand.
Right. Have you noticed when they read off the notes, what does that do to their speech?
I think it disengages from the audience.
Right. Yes, that's also my observation. Yeah. Their eye contact is not quite there. So, but you cannot quite have great eye contact and the thing in your hands at the same time. So it's almost like it's not just about dropping the piece of paper with text just so that there's no piece of paper in their hand, right? It also uh, will allow for better performance with those other aspects, right? Benedict.
Um, it could be that kind of like it seems like you've got lost in your explanation, which seems to suggest you might not have rehearsed your speech at least once. It's like even if you don't want to be too reliant on notes. What you can do, and what I like to do, is like take an A3 sheet of paper, just write down in large letters 5 words along the spine of your story that you're telling, just so you can have a quick glance of where should I be next. But mostly rehearse your story at least once or twice, rehearse your speech at least once or twice, just so you can hear yourself, hear how it comes together, and also see whether the timing is good.
Right. So that is great if you can actually even tell them specifically where was that moment when you felt like they didn't remember something, so they went on a longer uh, maybe tangent. They produced this kind of paragraph or whatever you want to call it on the go, and we are like sitting there. It's hard following you a little bit there. Yeah, I've certainly seen that happen and had that happen to me. Talha.
Yeah, one thing that also sometimes overlooked is the time. So if when preparing at home, even if you like prepare 8 to 9 minutes of speech, on the real stage, it will come down to 5 minutes. So sometime unpreparedness is shown by that they're finished for 3 or 4 minutes and now they're looking for timer. Please raise the green flag. Please raise the green flag. So that is also the feedback that we can give to prepare for time.
Oh yes,
If I,
yes,
if I
yeah.
might add a bit to that, it's
All right.
in the experience that sometimes if you don't prepare, you get nervous and you speed up. Others slow down.
Mm.
So usually I tell people in preparation of their icebreaker, which is 4 to 6 minutes, kind of like aim for about the 5 minute mark and find out whether you will come down below that because you've sped up from nerves, or whether you ended up higher than that. But if you aim for 5 minutes, you should still be in the 4 to 6, hopefully.
Yeah, totally. Some people do tend to slow down, some tends to speed up. I'm a slow downer personally.
Slow
I
down,
slow down for this.
or you just take breaks. And what what was where was I? And you lose time that way. Even if you start speaking faster, and then you go,
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
oh yeah, then I wanted to say, you still lose time.
Hmm. Serkan.
Yeah, one of my criteria is filler words. I am the best eye counter of my club. It was easy to take this role at the first time when I joined Toastmasters, and I am good at that. Especially, I'm following that's the filler words. If you use a lot of filler words in your speech, I think you generally seem unprepared if you use a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially if the person has sort of grown out of a habit of using them too much, and now you can hear them again. Yeah, very good sign. O's.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Alex.
Hi.
In my opinion, so one thing is about the practice style. Most of members practice on the couch. They are sitting on a couch and they take some read some paper and memorize them. But when they on the stage, they are getting excited because they couldn't remember something, they forgot something. Then so they are getting more excited. So it looks like unprepared. My advice is some practice on stage in your house. You can do that on stage practice, and of course you can take minutes something that you can measure the time, and on stage practice is solve most of problems. Some members use some take notes. They take notes on the paper and they carry it on the stage, but in general they don't look the papers, just carry them. So I asked them, it's a magic paper, why are you carrying them? Because they don't practice on stage. They have to handle manage their exciting. So my advice is, as I said before, stage practice.
How would you communicate to them that they were anxious on stage or they were nervous? If you don't use that word, if you're being very specific, I noticed this about you when you were speaking. What would you tell them to suggest that maybe they were a little bit too anxious?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to manage the stage exciting, so maybe more practice and more experience has solved this then. So
yeah, I mean, not in terms of how to solve it, but just to communicate to them how that anxiety showed up. If you could just tell them, not just you were anxious or you were nervous, if you were very specific about how that nervousness showed up, what would you tell them?
Wow. I think it depends and change for the person. So I need to see the person and talk with them. So maybe you can you need to know yourself better. It's about you. It's about yourself. You have to know your characteristic, your features on stage, because you are a person. You know that we have some titles in our job, in our house, but on stage our characteristic little bit change. So you need to know yourselves. So we have some tricks. So we have some tactics. But as I said, it's changed by the person. It's personal things.
Well, I'm just going to give some examples from my memory when I saw somebody who was a little bit too anxious on stage. So one thing that a person can do is that they can pace left and right with no connection to the speech itself. They just continuously go from left to right. Another one, which could work in combination with the pacing, is that they can break eye contact in less than a second. They look at someone randomly and then they look down. They look at someone and they look down. It could be being stuck in one pose and not using the stage at all. So my argument is, before giving advice, the more specific we can be with just our observations, without even telling them what to do. If we just can give them specifically how it showed up, like, oh, so this is what I was doing. I was actually walking from left to right in like a cycle. Maybe next time I can try and break it somehow. And maybe that could be one thing I'll focus on. So that's my suggestion only to start with this. Marty, I'm so sorry to not give you the word because I really need to move forward with this. But at the end, if we have some time, I'll have a Q&A, and maybe if somebody wants to add something or suggest something, please feel free. But for now, let me just try and go through the rest of it and see how we are on time later on. this is a cheat sheet that yeah, that maybe I can send you the presentation and you can go over it. But we discussed all of these things, so I don't think that we need to stay on the slide too much. I'm just going to proceed to the next one. So the first tool was precision. The second one is trust. Arguably a more difficult thing to develop than being precise. So the idea is that this is where the job of an officer to officer feedback, I think, really lies. It is where the trust between the board members is kind of like a seedbed for everything that then happens in the club in terms of the trust culture. Before there's truth, must be trust. So I'll tell you a story that happened to me at the beginning of me becoming Toastmaster. There was a seasoned member who approached me either after an icebreaker or maybe after the next project. And he said that, okay, Alex, great job, but you have some chops, some experience thanks to your videos you make online, but you talk like you're looking into a camera and not like you're looking at real people. And I said, okay, cool, that's interesting, specific, I like it. I didn't take it too hard. I didn't really apply that to any huge extent, but I didn't get offended either. Then he said that same thing later. I remember it was cold outside, so probably it was winter. So I can only assume that a couple of months passed between that one and the next one. And maybe there was one other time when he said the same thing. And after that third time, I really stopped paying attention to how I look at people when I speak. But at no point did I actually get defensive. I took it very, very okay. And I think that was, at first I thought that's because he's just a cool guy and, I like his vibes, his personality. And so that's why I didn't get offended. And he's an experienced feedback provider. And those things are all true. But I think a key factor that I later was able to identify is that I trusted that person. And I trusted that there was no reason for that person to tell me anything but the truth that will help me. So what I learned is that it wasn't really the skill of the feedback providing in this case, it was the trust that really was a vehicle of that feedback. And as I was sitting and kind of using my own brain, trying to come up with ideas for what trust is and how you're supposed to even build trust, I came up with these four ideas. And I'm just going to as quickly as possible, go through them. And I suggest that maybe at least some of these might be useful in the context of your club, whatever it is, not just maybe Toastmasters Beyond. So the first one is, I think, highly applicable when the board is new. And I'm not sure, I'm going to be careful. I'm not sure. I think that pretty much all clubs recycle their boards at around the same time. Somewhere in July, at least that's the case for the two clubs I'm in. And so perhaps it's still new for many of us. And when people don't know each other terribly well, I think it's perfectly okay to just say it out loud, what they call bring out the elephant in the room. That, I don't know you terribly much. We've been coming here for a month, but I really want to help out and I would appreciate the same from you. So I'm just going to tell you this straight. In my opinion, within the context of a board, it's very, very healthy because you're going to be seeing each other for a year. It's good to start off the right foot. The second tactic that I really like is before providing feedback, why not ask for it for yourself? And when asking for feedback, you can be as specific as you might have otherwise been when providing feedback. So let's say that I'm working on my eye contact right now, and I have a specific issue that I like to look at that area above people's heads when I speak, and I don't look really into their eyes. And let's say that I tend to do it after, I don't know, minute 3. And so maybe I will ask a board member to have an eye on me, to watch me a little bit, and tell me when exactly I start my eye contact deteriorates, or maybe what else maybe they've noticed about how it breaks. And so if I'm so specific, they know that I'm for real, that I really want to get a very practical bit of advice from them. So the next time when I am going to give a practical bit of advice to them, it's probably going to land better because they will see that I need the same truth as I'm willing to give. So it's inviting the truth before capitalizing on the truth that you've built. The third thing is tricky, especially for someone with my cultural background, with my predisposition, with my personality. If you ask me how something happened, how you did, I will give you the truth that shows up in me immediately, and it could be the thing that you might want to improve. And that's something I have to consciously fight. It's always better, as I've learned, to always give the person two things. Just like in evaluation speeches, we give them the areas where they did well, and we give them the areas of improvement. I found that it's also absolutely the same in one-on-one conversations in any context. Why? Because, well, one reason at least, is because whenever the person, especially someone you don't know terribly well yet, asks you for feedback, you can never quite know what game they're playing there. Do they actually need feedback from you, or do they need to be validated by you? Maybe they secretly hope that you have noticed something amazing about them, and they want to hear it from you without them asking for it directly. They just hope that you will say it. So perhaps why not? Why not then? If there was something genuinely great about what they did or what they do, speech-wise, no matter what it was, it's always good to start off the happy foot, of the positive, of the joy, sugar it up a little bit, and then give the thing that maybe your brain wanted you to say. How about you try this, or this is what something that could use some work. So that way, it will always land better, and it will, that kind of sandwich with just two components will build trust over and over and over again. When you give the positive thing first, they listen to the area of improvement thing with an open heart. And for the fourth one, I think it's a perfectly fine idea to go a step forward. And I had this story also from Istanbul Toastmasters at one of the board meetings. One of the board members just surprised us all by bringing in A4 printouts where they asked us to fill out the survey and asking open-ended questions about themselves. And I was like, oh wow, okay, you went a little overboard there in my opinion, but I actually like it. I was able to really write down the things that I wouldn't say to their face, and I felt like I could trust that person more after I've done that. So within the board, it's in my opinion perfectly okay to experiment with more hardcore stuff, like asking people to fill out what the survey that you printed out about how they feel about you. I think it's great. So in the end, what happens, in my opinion, if you apply these principles, is that you create a positive loop between trust and truth. So the more trust you build by letting people speak the truth, the more truth they speak and the better they communicate it, the more trust they build. And it starts with the board, and you also spend more time with each other than you're going to spend with members. So that's a good practice opportunity to learn, to make those skills a habit, and then see if those habits start working automatically when you communicate with the members and you help them grow and you inspire them, and so on. Now, this last one is the hardest for me to talk about because this is absolutely my weak area. And I'm actually going to share a mistake that I made, and hopefully I've learned from it. It was a blunder, a social blunder on my end. It is when somebody asks you for feedback, but you went a little overboard, and maybe they say these days overshared, or you just didn't use the right tone, or you said more than you had to because of some hidden agenda of yours. So I'll tell you a story. It was the end of the term, and our president asked us to answer the question of what can be improved for the future board. And I went overboard with what I had to say. I said that I never really felt clear on what we were doing specifically with this club. And then I went on saying that at times I felt like we were just managing it and we were keeping it afloat. We were coming up with all these ideas, but I didn't quite understand what is the final mission, what is the final purpose, what we actually are doing here. I at no point have I understood this. So I went a little bit, or maybe a little, not a little. I went overboard and I said what I should not have been said. What I really could have said and stopped and like should literally close my mouth is to answer the question what can be improved for the future board, set a clearer mission for the next term. That's it. Nothing else. If that had been what I said, it would be a comment about the system that we built. But when I go on and I keep talking about me personally, never understanding what we were doing, now it's personal. It's almost a personal attack, or it is a personal attack, even though it doesn't feel like a personal attack to me. And not only that, but I delivered it at the last possible moment. I could have said it in private. I could have said it way before, like 6 months ago. But somehow I waited for the last moment to communicate it when we were supposed to like say maybe bye to each other or maybe not all of us, but still. What that suggests is that perhaps I was keeping it in me for a while before this kind of, I was like waiting for the opportunity that would allow me to give this feedback because this feedback is like, oh, I probably shouldn't give this feedback, but since you've asked, oh, okay, well, you asked yourself. There's a bit of a negative, vindictive kind of energy there. Not good. So, what can be done about it? I think it's always good to match the size of the truth, the size of the response to the size of the question. In my case, a small question doesn't need me to ventilate my feelings of frustration that accumulated over the entire year. And I think in the case of something more simple, like providing feedback to a club member, I think it's perfectly fine to only provide feedback in response to a very specific thing they ask. I mean, if they ask about something in general, even then, my idea is it's better to be precise about one thing than to give them six general ideas as to they did here, maybe they could do here. If one good thing and one area of improvement, perfect. Another one is to watch the aim. So what is this directed at? In my case, it was supposed to be directed at the system and not at the person. Never understood your leadership is kind of harsh, but set a clearer mission is very neutral. Monitoring dissatisfaction. Again, in me, probably it was a bit of a personal situation. To separate the feedback from my own feelings and emotions, that's also a skill, I think. To try and be objective with providing feedback. A lot of it is just to notice how my own feelings can creep in to my feedback and not allow it. And the sooner the better. So if there is something to be said, it's always better to say it quick. Before it festers or before it's forgotten, before it changes into something later and then I don't remember what exactly it was in the moment. Always good to go sooner than later. Let's see. So yeah, next time you have a meeting, next time you have a club meeting, a board meeting, or just hanging with each other, or why not limit yourself to Toastmasters? Maybe whenever anybody asks for opinion, I think why not practice these principles just for fun and see how they work, even if it's just a friend asking for some suggestion about whatever situation they have. Be very specific. Like, I notice this about you. You do this. And when you do this, I feel this. And when you do this, it's great. And stuff like that. And then always see if you can develop trust with those techniques, like saying it out loud, to the person when you have to say something, when you give both the positive thing and then the opportunity to grow, at least in your eyes, or maybe asking them how you show up, asking them to give you feedback and about what impact you're producing. I like to do that because sometimes people will tell me that I have a face, and they ask me if everything is okay. That's a good bit of feedback. Everything is okay, of course, but my face sometimes is not as animated as they would love. Or it could be the opposite. It's like, was I too harsh? They're like, no, I don't think you were too harsh. I think it's good, especially in a club, in the board between the club officers. Perfectly fine to ask those questions. Great, develop trust and calibration. Yeah, always matching the response to the question asked. To not go on a tangent and explaining how you feel about the person or what they're doing, if it's not necessary to communicate that. And always communicate that when asked soon without letting it fester. Now, what was this training about? It was about feedback 101. You've been listening to me for like 45 minutes. Now it's your turn. Supposedly some of you have been paying attention. You've been listening to these concepts that I provided. So I invite you to now practice them and give the feedback to me. And by the way, if this is the time when you want to ask a question, you can also immediately jump into that. Up to you. Or we can, if you have time, we'll have like 3 minutes, 5 minutes for questions. So, Marty, please.
I think, Alexander, that your presentation felt very engaging and interesting, primarily because you were just having a conversation with us. You started by telling us that you didn't read anything to get this information. So, what that told me was that it was experience based, and we are having an experience as Toastmasters. I do think it is ironic that after telling us it was experience based, at least 6 times you said, in my opinion. Now, that may just be for you a crutch phrase because, frankly, everything is in your opinion because you told us you didn't read about it. They were observations that you gleaned over time. Things like that detract because people like me will fixate on something small and hold it against you. But I think that your content, your delivery, and this idea of empowering the board as the feedback phenoms in a club is powerful, and I would love to see that Toastmasters wide because when a board has an activity that they can focus on collectively, instead of it being about one person doing this and another person doing that, it builds that capacity for them to work collaboratively, and that is always better for the clubs and the members. I'm really glad that I took the time to be here today, and I appreciate you giving us your insights.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to give some feedback? You can be real. Okay, Chloe.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think the use of your PowerPoint, your presentation, has been really, really clear. For me, I really, really value just having clear things that I can look at on the screen as you're giving your presentation. So I really, really appreciated that. And I also liked how you broke the session up into you giving us your experience and your knowledge and advice, and then allowing us to practice it during the session. It means that I've been engaged throughout the whole session, and I found this whole thing very, very interesting. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Talha.
So two of the classical things which should be practiced across these speeches as well. So, and you perfectly embodied them today. Number one is you engage the audience, like you ask questions and ask the opinion of all the attendees. So we were able to participate. It was not one way. And the second is you added your personal stories as well, so it didn't look very general, and we were able to engage with your story, just like in any speech. Like if you add your personal touch, the audience engage more. So those were the two parts which really kept the hook, and probably one of the best COT that I've attended so far. Thank you so much, Alex.
High praise, Talha. Thank you so much. Benedict.
Two things I noticed. One is you did this at the end of precision, you did this kind of like exercise with us, and you spent quite a bit of time on it. I think we might have benefited from making that a bit shorter and trying to add 2 more blocks at the end of trust and calibration to do the same. Because those, as you said, calibration, you find that's the block that's also most difficult for you. Getting some more peek into what might be there would have been really good. Second observation, possibly it's, I'd certainly love to get hold of the slides afterwards. If you're willing to share them, one thing you can do is on the last page, put a QR code with the download link for the presentation. So if anyone's interested, on the last page, just quickly, we all have our smartphones with us, just snap off the link and download, and you have it. Might make life easier for you as well. But,
yeah, awesome.
Thank you. It was well invested time.
Thank you so much. My last slide is way more self-serving than that. I just put on my socials on there, but absolutely, I will share the presentation. Maybe if there's a how can I do it? WhatsApp group, or I can post somewhere. I'll text to Serkan. Maybe we can figure out how to share it best. What would be the easiest way? Thank you so much again, guys. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. It also felt like a conversation to me. Great. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask now. Otherwise, if there are no questions, Serkan, whenever you're ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, sorry. Before question, may you open your camera for taking a family photo? After question session, some of friends leave the meeting. I couldn't catch them. Sorry for that. May you open your cameras, please?
Should I stop the sharing for the camera?
Yeah, please, Alex. Now we are done. Let me count down 3. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 3, 2. Okay, thank you so much. Stage is yours, Alex.
I saw Ipek was putting her hand up, and
yeah.
then maybe we missed something.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I was wondering about Marty's question in the middle of our session, but I think she already posted on chat, so I will just leave. I mean, she mentioned about nervous speech, like how do you manage such performance? So you asked this question, but to be time-wise, you postponed her comments, right? You had to. But now I can see her
wow.
feedback, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right, Marty?
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Marty, for being
that long message. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for being so comprehensive. I'm going to copy your entire message and paste it so that I could really read into it. I'll paste it somewhere on my computer. Thank you so much.
Personally, Alexander, it's not this final feedback, but I really like your approach that you bring the table, you bring board meetings to the table. Because I basically thought everything in terms of stage performance and giving feedback for stage, but you mentioned board meetings heavily. So thank you for your perspective in that matter.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming again.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I was sure
Okay.
this one would be nice.
Hmm.
And I also like your word choice, like how you phrase your explanations. I like your choice of words, like precision. What was the other one? I liked the calibration, like really nice words.
I think we don't
Thank
have
you.
any question right now. Thank you so much, Alexander. I learned a lot. Really, I mean it. And by the way, I applaud you and with our friends.
Let's see if this
Yeah,
works.
before closing the training,
Yeah.
I would like to give a word for our program quality director, Deniz Şener Kaliloğlu. And thanks to her, he helped me to organize this TLIx session. Stage is yours, Deniz.
Thank you, Alexander, again, and also thank you, Serkan. I think you're doing great, and these sessions are going very valuable. Thank you for all for attending, and let's continue with the next 7 other TLIs that's coming this month.
Thank you so much, dear friends. Our next meeting on 10th of August, I mean Monday evening at the same time. Yes.
One just last minute change. The Monday one, Katya, will not be able to do it on Monday, so we will reschedule her to the end of the month on 27th, I think. We will work with you to change the schedule. So the next one
Okay.
is Tuesday.
Yes, okay. Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I would say in Turkey time. Yeah, I would like to see you there again. Thank you so much for attending and joining us. Thank you, Alexander, again. Thank you, Dennis. See you next time. Have a great day.
Night, everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Toasties.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye bye.
Bye.